Hey everybody, it's Cauliflower Man here. I'm bringing you another Helix build for Battleborn, and today we are focusing on one of the most interesting characters in Battleborn, and I would say he's one of the strongest as well. This character is Shane and Aurox. Shane is really what I would call a stereotypical tank. He can take a lot of damage, and that's basically how you play him, is just to take as much damage as you can. He can take a lot of damage without dying, specifically because he has huge shields. So the way you really want to play him is just to make the enemy team focus on you, but never let them kill you, and then you'll just open up your team for a lot of offensive attacks. So let's go ahead and look at his basic character sheet here. On the left side, you can see he's a rogue defender. The three describing attributes that they give to him are that he's a stealth character, he's an initiator, and he is complex. Those are somewhat correct. He's a stealth character, sort of. He's got a little bit of stealth. That's usually used for getting away. It's less stealth than a person like a Deande, way less than Pendles. It's even less than an Oscar Mike. So yeah, he's kind of got stealth. He's an initiator. I guess you could say that. The thing about Shane is that he can be used to initiate fights. He also can be used to finish them. It's hard to say that he's specifically an initiator, although with his pull and the slow on his when you come out of stealth strike, that can be used to initiate attacks. And then it says he's complex. That's the one that I would definitely agree with. He's kind of an odd character, to say the least. I didn't like him when I first started this game just because he's weird. He's very weird, but once you know how to play this game, he's definitely one of the best tanks. And if you ever play at a high level, Shane's one of the most commonly picked characters. So let's go ahead and look at his skills over here. Now, fleet-footed is Shane's passive. When Aurox is disabled, Shane moves 30% faster for 2 seconds. That basically means whenever you use a skill that uses Aurox, and Aurox is that big monster on Shane's back, Shane can use skills that'll make Aurox go somewhere else. Whenever you do that, Shane will move a little bit quicker. You'll also have a lot less damage when Shane's not on your back, because the one thing you have to remember with Shane is that he does 2 melee strikes. Shane holds little knives in his hand, and so he'll stab people himself, and then Aurox will also punch people, or I guess slice at them with Aurox's claws. So you actually get like 2, it looks like you get 2 melee attacks when you think you would only get one slightly after the other. So it's a little bit weird when you're playing him, but if you play him a little bit, you'll get used to it. Below fleet-footed just says Aurox. That's talking about what I just basically said there. It's his Jin. Basically, whenever you have Aurox on Shane's back, you'll also have 20% reduced damage when your shield is active, so that's pretty good, although you don't really pay attention to that all that much. Shane's secondary attack is his boomerang. This boomerang is very terrible, to say the least. You really don't want to use it at all unless the enemies are out of range. Basically, the only time I use it is if there's a minion wave coming up and I'm waiting for them to get close enough so that I can hit them with my melee strikes. Other than that, I would basically avoid using that boomerang at all times. Stealth Strike is one of Shane's skills. It cloaks Shane for 5 seconds, and then when he comes out of cloak, he'll do a little bit of damage and slow enemies. And the main thing that you want to remember on this is that you slow enemies when you come out. The slow is great because as a melee character, when you're attacking someone, if they try and turn and sprint away, you won't be able to follow them and strike them as they're doing it, but if they're slowed, they can't turn and run away. So when you come out of stealth, you have a very long time, or not a very long time, you have 3 seconds where they can't get away, and you can just do a bunch of damage. So on the left there where it said he's an initiator, I usually use Stealth Strike as an initiating move. A lot of people would say, oh, you should use Fetch as an initiating move, but Fetch is more of a closer. When they're trying to run away, pull them back, or if they're real weak, pull them close enough so that you can kill them. So let's go ahead and talk about Fetch then. Now Fetch below Stealth Strike, that's his pull. This does very little damage, but the main thing is it just pulls people to you. That's always good, because if they try and run away, you pull them to you, or if they're, you know, let's say they're up on top of something and you can't quite reach them, you can use Fetch and pull them down to you. Now below fetch is Shane's ultimate. Shane's ultimate is tag team. It does a bunch of area of effect damage and then knocks people into the air. It's really great. Once you level him up all the way, you'll be able to get a life steal on that. And once you hit level 10 with Shane, you get the life steal on tag team. He's really unstoppable. You don't even need a healer. I've played many games with Shane without a healer, and you can do it. It's kind of hard until you hit level 10 and get that life steal, but once you get that life steal on his ultimate, Shane becomes basically an unstoppable monster. Alright, so now if we go ahead and look at Shane's Helix build here. For level 1, this first option, the left side, you can do extra damage on your stealth strike. That's a terrible choice. It seems like it would be good to do extra damage, but when you do that choice, there's an audio cue when you're in stealth, so it basically makes your stealth worthless. Everyone knows where you're at in stealth, especially because they'll take damage too, so it just becomes very obvious where Shane is when he's stealthed, and I really don't like it. The overshield when you hit someone with fetch, I love that choice specifically because Shane's a tank and he tanks with his shield. Most tanks have super high health. Shane doesn't have super high health, but he has a super high shield, which it's far better to tank with your shield than your health because your shield comes back on its own. You don't need any healing for it. And so when you hit someone with fetch, it gives you a 225 overshield. This is great simply because it either can make your shield just get larger, or a lot of times if you're running away and about to die, you turn around, hit your opponent with fetch, and then you get an overshield and so they can't kill you. So I always like to go to the right on that choice. Now level 2 here, on the right side you can increase the attack speed of Shane after coming out of stealth strike. That's okay, but the only problem I really have with that is that slow is far better for a melee character. So yeah, you get an increased attack speed, but if you increase the slow for Shane, then those people really can't get away, and it causes a huge amount of problems. The initial slow on stealth strike is okay, but when you double the slowing effect, they really can't get anywhere, and it's very easy to hit them with absolutely every one of your melee strikes for the whole time that they're slowed if you increase the slowing effect. So I always go to the left on level 2. Now for level 3 here, the left side, the boomerang bounce. I've said it before, I really don't like the boomerang on Shane. I think it's really useless for the most part. I rarely use it, so I would avoid the boomerang bounce. The center choice, you can increase Shane's melee attacks while his shield is active. That's a great choice. It's got a lot of promise. The only thing is on the right side, if you do a little math here, it's almost impossible to say that you can choose the center choice rather than the right choice, simply because Shane's main attribute, the main thing he offers the team is the fact that he's such a good tank, and if you increase his shield recharge by 105 per second, it lowers the time taken for his shield to recharge from 10 seconds to a little bit under 4. So I always go to the right side simply because you can recharge your shield so quickly, and you really want to wait until Shane's shield is at full before you re-enter the battle. So let's go on to level 4 now. Level 4, you can either get shield steal on fetch for the left choice. You can pull everyone that fetch hits on the center choice, or you can stun them on the right choice. I never do the shield restore simply because this steals the target's shield. When it's shield steal, that has very limited usefulness. For a character, the only person who I ever put shield steal on is Wrath for his crossblade. You can get his crossblade to steal shields from people. It doesn't actually steal shields with Wrath. It actually, whatever the damage does, it just adds that to your shield, but this one steals their shield. So a lot of times when you're in a battle, the enemy doesn't have a shield, so that's very limited in use. The center choice is really underrated simply because a lot of people just go for that stun, but a lot of times I like to pull everybody. The reason being is most people, when you're facing a Shane, the way that you defend against his fetch, the easiest way to defend against his fetch is you stand behind your minions, because then if he tries to fetch you, he'll hit the minion instead of you. But if you pull everybody, you can throw your fetch through the minion wave, and yes, it'll pull the minions too, but it'll also pull the person behind them, and you can hit like 3 or 4 people with fetch this way. So I like pulling a lot of people. I generally choose the center choice. Some of that too goes with the fact that I'm almost always solo queuing. I don't really like playing in teams because If I play in teams, I win all the time and it gets real boring. The only time I like playing in teams is if we're going to do some sort of exotic sort of team build. I like doing triple or quadruple, healing, things like that. Real weird stuff is the way I like to play in teams. So I usually don't go to the right one. However, if you are playing in a team, the 2-second stun duration can be really good just because you can use chain stuns. And by that I mean, like, let's say you stun somebody with Shane, then you've got a Montana on your team, and then your Montana stuns the person that you just stunned, and then you've got an Alani, and then the Alani does her geyser and bubbles that person. Chain stunning is the easiest way to get kills in this game, so if you're playing competitively and on a team with a lot of stuns, the stun on fetch can be really good. The only problem with the stun is it makes Shane hold that person, so you don't do very much damage as Shane when you stun them. But again, that choice just kind of comes down to whether or not you're in a team or not. So let's go ahead and look at level 5. Level 5 is the big one. This skill is ridiculously powerful. On the left side, the Immortal Aegis. At the conclusion of any skill, Shane and Aurox's shield immediately begins to recharge. Now, Shane's base shield is 600, so this means that after using any skill, you'll immediately start recharging that shield back up to 600. So the way you'll use Shane is you get his shield taken out, and then you use a skill to try and recharge it. Just so you all know that when you use the skill, it doesn't mean that your shield will recharge fully, because if you're getting attacked while it gets recharged, it won't fully recharge. It'll stop charging. That's just the way shields work. But that being said, even if you only hit one, or even if only 1/3 of your skills will actually recharge your shield, that's still the biggest self-heal that anybody has in game. Not even Alani's geyser comes close to it. So this makes Shane almost not necessarily a healer. He self-heals, but he's got the best self-healing in the game. And then later on, you can even increase your shield to an extra 240, so you'll get 840 shield. So that's just a ridiculous self-heal. On the right side, you can increase fleet-footed's duration. That's okay, but the Immortal Aegis at level 5 of Shane is potentially the best Helix build, or the Helix level up in game. Or at least if I were to say what's the best Helix level up in game, I would say it's this right here on the left side. So always go left here. Then level 6. This one, both choices are kind of useless. You can take less damage while in Stealth Strike. Well, in Stealth Strike, people can't see you, so you're not going to take much damage anyway. And then you've got shield penetration on fetch. Well, fetch is used to isolate an enemy, so usually it's on a weak person or it's on somebody who is running away from you. In both cases, it's rare that they have shields, so neither choice here is really going to do much for you, so just do whatever. And then level 7, this one, the left and right choices are both pretty good. It kind of depends on how much healing you have. If you don't have a healer, you might want the extra health regen on Shane just to make sure that when your shield goes down, you'll heal a bit of the damage that you take back. That way you'll be able to stay in the fight longer. The center choice, again, I've always said Boomerang's useless, so don't increase the damage on it. It's not useless, but it's just not good. And then in the right choice, you can increase Shane's shield 240. I like choosing the choice on the right simply because, so if your shield's big enough, you don't need any healing. So as long as you keep your shield up, the extra health regen, you won't need it. So I like having Shane's shield at 840. Level 8 now. This one is an interesting choice between the left and the center choice. The right choice increases the damage on Shane's Stealth Strike. It doesn't do much damage to begin with, his Stealth Strike, so there's really not a point to choosing the right one. Now, the left choice, a lot of people will choose this one to increase the total time you're in stealth. I don't really like that, simply because I feel like the 5 seconds is enough. Shane is a tank, so you don't really follow people way back into enemy lines. You basically use that stealth to either run from the main battle lines back to your healer, or you use it from the main battle lines to get someone just slightly behind enemy lines who's weak. So I feel like his Stealth Strike's got enough time. You could make a case for it, but I don't really personally like it. However, this center one, Increase the area of effect radius on the Stealth Strike. I choose this one, although this one has its own weaknesses, just in the fact that in Stealth Strike it's very easy to come up on an enemy because they don't see you, so you don't necessarily need the 50% area of effect increase. So this one's kind of a toss-up. I prefer the center choice just because I don't really feel like as a tank I need to be invisible for all that long, but you could go left or center. I just would avoid the right choice. And then level 9 here. This one is one where you basically should probably choose the left choice. A lot of people say you should increase the speed of Shane and Aurox fetch. You can do it. The only thing I really don't like about increasing the speed of any sort of skills, this even goes for Galt, although for Galt I'll sometimes increase the speed of his chain. Just because it also increases the distance, but it'll make you miss more. So if you've played the whole game and you're used to hitting people with Shane's fetch, and then you change the speed it happens at, it changes the way you have to aim, and so it's really weird to do. I mean, if you're used to changing the speed on it, that's fine. I just prefer not to. So I usually go for the cooldown time on the left there. And then the right choice, increasing fetch's damage. Fetch does almost no damage anyway, so just don't do it. And then finally for level 10, this one is what I love about Shane. It's my favorite, or it's not my favorite, but it makes Shane impossible to kill for me. I always choose the left one. It's 35% life steal on the damage that Shane does, and this isn't life steal, so if you do damage to someone's shields, you'll still get all that back. The reason I like to do this is if you throw that down on a minion wave, you can fully regenerate Shane's health from basically 0 if you hit it perfectly. You can make a good choice, or you can make a good case for the right choice here if you have enough healers. So if you don't really need the healing, then the right choice will slow enemies when they're in your ultimate, and you'll get a lot more damage out of it. But I like to choose the left one simply because then I'll just get a bunch of health regeneration, and usually the weakest characters on Battleborn are the healers. For some reason, the characters or the people who play Battleborn really don't understand how healing works. It's kind of embarrassing how bad all the healers are, so I usually go for the left choice here. Now, finally, for Shane, we've got the gear that I wear. The first thing I've got is just something that lowers his shield recharge delay. As you can see, I need to get a better one for him. This one isn't maxed out. However, it just negatives his reload speed. That way it's a 0 cost one, so I put that on and I get my shield back quicker. As I've already said, Shane's shield is, you're going to get it over 840 if you fully level it up, and then so the faster you get that back, the more damage you can take without taking any health damage, and it's just nuts. The next piece of gear I have on him is just a max rolled basic health regen gear. I put that on most people. And then finally I've got a shard generator that negatives his reload speed. I like putting shard generators on most all of my classes simply because that helps you level up quicker, and the quicker you level up, the more likely you are to win. So anyways, that's the way I like to level Shane up, and that's the gear I like to put on him. Just always remember, when you're playing Shane, the way you do it is you go in, you attack enemies until your shield starts going down. You can take a little bit of damage, especially if you've got health regen gear on him, but once you've taken a little bit of damage, then get out of there, let your shield recharge, and then go back into the battle. Make sure that with Shane, you want to take as much damage as possible, but without taking health damage. It's all about wasting your shield and then retreating and then getting back into battle when your shields come back.